And they have to poke their finger, and every time they eat, they have to give insulin.
I like to learn.
I like to listen.
I like to ask questions.
We sometimes get things wrong.
But we learn quick. I'm Jacqueline.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Chandler.
I'm Crystal.
I'm Sarah.
Jen Helms, diabetes educator at Trios Help. Does anybody know what a certified diabetes educator is?
Nope.
You don't? Well, do you know?
Well, where you teach other kids about diabetes?
Yeah, exactly. I'm a teacher. So most people know someone who have diabetes. You know there's different types of diabetes?
No. Yeah, there's type 1 and type 2.
There's type 1 and type 2, right. But today we want to talk a little bit more about type 1 diabetes. Type 1 usually happens to kids like yourself. And most are diagnosed about your guys' age. So type 1 diabetes is what we call an autoimmune disease, okay? And basically what that is that it has an allergic reaction, and that allergic reaction targets a person's pancreas, okay?
What's pancreas?
What's the pancreas? Good question. It's an organ in the body, and it produces a hormone called insulin. And does anybody know what insulin does?
Does it control your sugars?
It controls your blood sugars. Good, good. So the pancreas, when we eat food, our body has to work to digest it. So it works hard digesting that food that we ate. And when it gets into the stomach or the gut, the smaller intestine, it triggers the pancreas to release insulin. And then insulin goes out throughout our body the same time our food is being digested. And some of the foods, specifically carbohydrates and sugar, break down to glucose. That's kind of a big word. So glucose is just a fancy word for sugar, okay? And that sugar gives us energy, right? And before it can get into our muscles, it has to have what hormone?
Insulin.
Insulin, good job, because insulin is like the key that unlocks the door to let the sugar in.
If you have type 1 diabetes, don't you have to get those meters?
You do,
to help
yes, you have to test your blood sugars. Here's one right here. They use this to poke their finger, and once they get a drop of blood, this brings the blood up and it tells them what their blood sugar is. If you're not producing insulin, how are they going to get insulin?
Medicine?
Medicine. They have to give themselves insulin as a medication. When kids come into the hospital, and if they're diagnosed with diabetes, we give them a Linidol so they can practice. The only way they can get insulin is through an injection or through a pump, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is an insulin pen, and there's a little tiny needle, as you can see here. So what these kids do is they have to give themselves an injection, and they practice on Lenny and give him their shot, okay? And then once they feel more comfortable, they give their own shots. And they give shots. How many times a day do you think they need to give shots?
2 or 3 times a day.
Usually at least 4 times a day, sometimes more.
Oh,
That's a lot, huh?
Yes.
This is an insulin pump. So instead of having to have them give shots 4 times a day or more, they have a pump, and the pump connects to them like so. The insulin is put in here, and the pump delivers the insulin for them. So then they don't have to give multiple shots. Wouldn't that be easier than this, maybe?
Yeah.
So it makes their life a little bit easier. So are those kids with type 1 diabetes, are they any different than you or me?
Nope.
No, they're not. Do they have to eat any different than you or me?
Nope.
No.
No, they don't. What do they have to do different?
Probably just have a different schedule each day.
Yeah, and they have to poke their finger, and every time they eat, they have to give insulin. So let's talk about food, okay? Because food's a big part of someone who has diabetes life. We just built a wonderful plate. What do you think? Why is that well balanced? Tell me why that's well balanced.
It has has healthy food?
It has healthy foods because it has a fruit, it has a vegetable,
Whole grain.
it has whole grain and some nice lean protein. So if you look at that, they're going to count the foods that have carbohydrates in them. So let's count the foods that have carbohydrates. 1,
2, 3, 4.
4 servings, and that's a nice balanced meal for someone who has diabetes, is to try to stick around 3 to 4 servings of carbohydrate. So what they would do next is that they would take this and they would probably dial up about 4 units and they would give themselves a shot before they would eat their food.
If you eat too much sugar, could this be deadly if you're diabetic?
Has anybody ate too much sugar at one time and got a bellyache?
Halloween.
Okay, Halloween. Don't you think people who have diabetes love to go to do Halloween and eat candy as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what they'd have to do is they would just have to take more insulin based on how much sugar they had. And that's what our bodies do anyway. So the more sugar you eat, the more your pancreas has to produce insulin. Okay, now if they don't take the insulin, they eat too much sugar, yes, it could be deadly.
If there's anyone I know with diabetes, what can I do to help them?
I think the best thing you could do to help someone who has diabetes is to make them feel comfortable, just to be support for them and being a friend to them. That would be the best thing.
Is there such a thing that your pancreas can work overboard?
Yes, they can. And that's a different type of diabetes. That's type 2 diabetes. So sometimes as we get older and if we have too much weight on us, our body has to work really, really hard to keep up with the extra weight that we may have on us. And then your pancreas can burn out, and that's when we can get type 2 diabetes. One more question and we're gonna finish it up, okay?
Is low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, is that a type of diabetes?
So low blood sugar is a complication or a symptom of diabetes, and a couple things could happen is maybe they overjudged and took a little bit too much insulin and the blood sugar goes down. Or if we don't eat for long periods of time, we can get low blood sugar. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming today and answering all these wonderful questions. I had a great time and I hope you learned something today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. I'm hungry now.
You're hungry now?